The silent departure. The grand chamber of the Galactic Council was always filled with noise. Thousands of voices spoke at once, arguments, demands, and debates echoing under the high metallic arches. But on this day, something different happened. Something that would be remembered in every star system for centuries. The humans were present. They had entered quietly, walking to their seats with calm steps, their faces unreadable. Many in the chamber noticed how still they looked, how their eyes scanned without expression. The other species expected them to argue, to fight with words, to push back against the accusations laid upon them. For months, whispers of human aggression had spread across the galaxy, claims that they were too dangerous, too unpredictable, too independent. Many thought this meeting would end in fiery speeches and threats. Instead, the humans sat in silence. The Chancellor of the Council cleared his throat, his long insect-like mandibles clicking nervously. "Representatives of Earth," he said, "you have been accused of arrogance, of refusing to bow to the Council's authority. What do you have to say in your defense?" The chamber grew tense. Every eye turned to the humans. Everyone expected their leader to rise and speak, but no one moved. The human representative, a woman with dark hair and sharp eyes, simply looked at the Chancellor. Her gaze was calm, not angry, not fearful, just silent. Behind her, the other. Humans remained seated, their hands resting on the table, their expressions stone-like. Seconds stretched into minutes. The silence pressed down on the chamber like a weight. The other delegates shifted uncomfortably in their seats. Silence was not normal here. The council was a place of endless speeches, arguments, and words. Silence was unnatural. Silence was terrifying. One alien leader slammed his claw on the table. "Answer us, human. Speak." Still, no reply came. The human woman stood up slowly. For a moment, the chamber thought she would speak at last. Every translator device hummed, ready to carry her words to every ear. But instead of speaking, she only looked at the council with a cold, steady stare. Then, without a word, she turned. The entire human delegation rose with her. Their chairs scraped against the floor in unison, the sound echoing like thunder in the silence. Step by step, they walked toward the great doors of the chamber. No one stopped them. No one dared. "Wait," shouted the Chancellor. "You cannot just—" But they did. The humans left the chamber, their footsteps slow and deliberate, each one striking harder than any weapon. The great doors closed behind them with a heavy boom, sealing the chamber in an echo of finality. For the first time in living memory, the council was left speechless. The silence lingered even after they were gone. The delegates looked at each, other confusion mixing with fear. What did it mean? Why would the humans walk away without speaking? A young envoy from the Avrek species whispered, his voice trembling. "When humans stop speaking, it means something worse than words is coming." Others nodded in fear. They remembered human history, the ancient stories told across the galaxy. Humans had always fought hardest when silent. Before their wars, before their revolutions, before their most decisive strikes, they had gone quiet. It was not weakness. It was preparation. The Chancellor's mandibles clicked nervously again. "Perhaps they plan to return with demands," he said, though his voice shook. "Perhaps they want us to chase them." But deep inside, everyone in the chamber felt the truth. Humanity's silence was not a request. It was a warning. One by one, whispers spread across the chamber. What if they are done with us? What if they no longer wish to speak at all? What if silence means war? The chamber filled with noise again, but it was not the confident noise of debate. It was panic. Fear had taken root. Far away, the humans walked through the long corridors of the station. They did not hurry. They did not look back. To the guards who stood at attention, their faces seemed colder than ever. The leader of the delegation paused at a viewport, staring into the endless dark of space. For a moment, her reflection looked back at her, unreadable. One of her companions asked quietly, "Do you think they understood?" She did not answer. She only kept walking. Behind them, The stars burned in silence, and the galaxy realized, perhaps too late, that silence from humanity was the most dangerous sound of all. The fear of silence. The council chamber remained heavy, with the silence that the humans had left behind. Delegates who had once shouted with confidence now sat uneasy, their voices lowered to whispers. The absence of words from Earth's representatives echoed louder than any accusation. It felt less like a walkout, and more like a shadow that spread across the galaxy itself. On the upper tiers of the chamber, the envoys of smaller races looked nervous. Many of them depended on human trade, human technology, and human protection. Their fleets were weak, their colonies fragile. Without humanity's presence, they felt exposed. A representative from the small reptilian Dravik whispered to his neighbor, "If the humans will not speak for us, then who will protect us when the pirates come?" The neighbor, a tall avian from the Tayari, fluffed his wings nervously. "It is not protection that worries me," he replied. "It is what comes after silence. Humans, they do not forget. They do not forgive. Their history is full of storms that began after they went quiet." Down below, the Chancellor tried to regain order. His voice cracked as he called out, "The Council will not be intimidated by silence. We are united. The humans have only proven their arrogance." But his words sounded hollow. Everyone remembered the wars of Earth, their ability to rise again after destruction, their endless endurance. For every defeat in their history, humans had returned stronger, their silence turning into storms. Entire empires had underestimated them once. None existed anymore. A commander from the Krell Dominion slammed his armored fist against the table. "We should strike first," he growled. "If they refuse to bow, then let us remind them who controls this galaxy." His words sparked panic. Some delegates shouted in support, others recoiled in fear. Striking humanity was no simple matter. The galaxy remembered the last war fought against them centuries ago. It had ended not with humanity's defeat, but with their enemies' surrender. The scars of that war still marked entire planets. "No," hissed a cautious voice. "It belonged to the ambassador of the Sarathi, a species known for their long memories. You fools do not understand. Humans do not need to fight us to win. They only need to leave. Without them, the balance breaks. Our trade, our defenses, our fragile peace, it was all held together by their presence. Now they have chosen silence. We should fear what comes after." The council erupted in arguments again. Voices clashed, claws slammed on metal tables, wings rustled, mandibles clicked. But beneath all the sound, a cold truth lingered. The humans had not threatened them. They had not attacked. They had not spoken a single word. And yet the council was already falling apart. Meanwhile, outside the chamber, across the galaxy, strange reports began to flow in. Human fleets were withdrawing from shared patrol routes. Colonies once open to trade suddenly closed their gates. Joint research stations flickered offline. Even the human embassies on alien capitals were shutting down. One by one, without explanation, the humans were retreating. Not with war, but with silence. On a distant mining world, a Tayari captain stared at the empty docking bays where human freighters once arrived. "Without their shipments," he muttered, "our reactors will go dark within weeks." In another sector, a border, world once kept safe by human patrols suddenly found itself at the mercy of raiders. The people cried out for help, but no human ships came. The galaxy began to feel the absence like a wound. Back in the chamber, fear turned into desperation. "We must reach out," cried one delegate. "Send envoys, send apologies, whatever it takes. If they leave us, chaos will follow." Others argued back. "If we crawl to them now, we prove our weakness. No, we must show strength." But deep down, they knew strength was a lie. Humanity had not lifted a weapon, not spoken a word, and already the galaxy trembled. The Chancellor tried again, his mandibles shaking. "Perhaps they only mean to scare us. They will return. They must return." But the Sarathi ambassador spoke again, his voice low and grim.
No, this is not a threat. This is judgment. The humans have decided we are not worth their voice. Those words hung in the air like a curse. For the first time in centuries, the most powerful species of the galaxy felt truly small. They had
always thought silence was weakness, but now they realized silence was a weapon and humanity had just unleashed it. The Council's debate. The chamber no longer felt like the heart of the galaxy. It felt like a cage filled with frightened voices. The silence humanity had left behind was now replaced with shouting, panic, and raw fear. Every delegate tried to speak louder than the other, but beneath the noise a single truth pulsed in the air. Humanity had walked away, and the galaxy was already unraveling. The Chancellor pounded his staff against the floor. Order, order in this council. His voice cracked as he spoke, his insectoid mandibles trembling. The demand for order only fueled more chaos. One alien, a thick-bodied Krell warrior, leaned forward with fury. They mock us with their silence. If they think themselves above the council, then let us remind them. We are united. Without us, they are nothing. Nothing, scoffed the Sarathi ambassador, his scaled face dark with contempt. Your words are hollow, Krell. Without them, our fleets crumble. Our borders fall apart. You would fight them? Tell me, have you forgotten their history? Humanity does not lose wars. They endure until their enemies collapse. The Krell snarled, but many in the chamber shifted uncomfortably. The Sarathis, words struck deeper than anyone wanted to admit. Across the chamber, a delegate of the small fox-like Rinari stood on trembling legs. His voice was thin, but desperate. My colony has already lost its human patrols. Pirates swarm our trade. Routes, without them my people will starve. We must bring them back, apologize, beg if we must, but do something. Others murmured in agreement, fear growing like a wildfire. But then a tall avian delegate, feathers gleaming silver, rose with cold pride. No, he said firmly. If we bow to humanity now, we surrender the Council's authority forever. They will rule us without saying a word. We must hold the line. If they leave, so be it. The galaxy existed before them. It will exist after them. For a moment, silence followed his words, but then reports flashed across the hollow screen surrounding the chamber. A dozen colonies cut off from human trade. 3 border worlds raided. Entire star lanes collapsing in lawlessness. The chamber fell into nervous whispers again. The Sarathi ambassador spoke softly, but every word was sharp. The galaxy existed before them, yes, but it was a galaxy of chaos and endless war. It was humanity that forced order upon us, not with domination but with persistence. Do you not see? Their silence is not surrender. It is punishment, and we are already paying the price. The Chancellor looked helpless. He had led the Council for decades, always believing he could balance the great powers. But nothing in his experience had prepared him for this. Words had always been the weapon of the chamber, yet against silence they had no defense. Suddenly an aide rushed into the chamber, pale and trembling. His voice cracked as he delivered the report. Counselors, the human embassies on our capital worlds are closing. Their envoys are leaving our planets. All communication channels are shutting down. Gasps filled the hall. The Chancellor's staff slipped from his hand and clattered onto the floor. All of them? He whispered. Yes, the aide replied. Everyone. The chamber erupted again. Some shouted for immediate peace envoys, others demanded sanctions, and a few called for war, but no decision could be reached. The Council was splintering, its unity breaking apart faster than ever before. In the middle of the chaos, the Sarathi ambassador rose again. His eyes burned with grim certainty. Do you not understand? The humans do not need to fire a single weapon. They have already won. We will destroy ourselves in their absence. His words struck the chamber like a hammer. For a brief moment, the shouting stopped. Many looked down, ashamed, afraid, unwilling to meet each other's eyes. The Chancellor tried once more to raise his voice. We must send word. A message of clemency, perhaps. Something to But his words were cut off as the chamber doors opened. A messenger from the frontier rushed inside, his robes torn, his face pale. "Counselors," he cried. "A fleet of raiders has attacked the Veri system. Thousands dead already. No human ships came to stop them. The colonies cry out for help." The delegates looked at one another. None spoke, because in that moment, they realized the truth. Humanity's silence was not empty. It was the sound of the galaxy breaking apart. The galaxy trembles. The galaxy had never known true silence until humanity stopped speaking. At first, it seemed like only the council chamber had grown heavy with it, but within weeks the silence spread across the stars. On the mining moons of the Tayari Confederacy, freighters once painted with human flags no longer arrived. Crates of supplies sat empty, reactors powered down, and workers stared at the black sky, waiting for ships that never came. Without human engineers to stabilize their fragile machines, the mines collapsed. Hundreds died in the dark, their cries lost in the endless void. On the borders of the Renari colonies, pirates returned with hunger. For years, human patrols had kept them at bay, their fleets small but relentless. Now, with the humans gone, the raiders came like vultures. They struck undefended trade routes, burning villages, capturing freighters, enslaving entire communities. The Renari cried out for help, sending desperate signals to the council. None were answered, and across the core worlds, even the most powerful species felt the cracks. Trade slowed, black markets grew, and entire economies shook. The galaxy had grown used to human persistence, used to their ships crossing every star, lane, their stubborn will keeping order where no one else cared to. Without them, old wounds reopened. Enemies fought again. Borders burned. Inside the council chamber, panic became daily routine. Delegates shouted over each other, their speeches filled with fear and anger. Reports arrived each hour. More colonies falling into chaos, more worlds suffering without human aid. The Chancellor's once proud voice grew weak. He no longer spoke with authority, only with desperation. "We must send envoys," he insisted, again and again. "We must ask them to return, offer concessions, anything they ask." But the council was divided. The Krell still demanded strength, still clung to the belief that fear would make humanity bend. Others, like the Sarathi, knew the truth. Humanity had no need to bend. They had already turned their backs, and the galaxy was the one breaking. Report came from the Avrek frontier. Entire hospitals shutting down because human medical shipments had stopped. Diseases once cured easily now spread unchecked. Children died, and their parents cursed the council for driving humanity away. Another report followed. A great starship convoy from the Dravik was ambushed by slavers. Without human escorts, they were taken, their fate unknown. The chamber filled with dread as these reports piled higher. No one could deny it now. Humanity had been the invisible spine of the galaxy, holding together what no one else could. And, now that spine was gone, whispers spread among the smaller species. Perhaps we should leave the council and follow the humans. Perhaps they will protect us if we choose them. These whispers terrified the great powers most of all, for if the smaller races abandoned them, the council would collapse entirely. Meanwhile, far from the chamber, on a barren moon orbiting a dead star, something stirred. A silent human dreadnought, massive and dark, drifted above the surface. Its weapons were cold, its engines quiet, but its presence was enough to terrify entire fleets. No message came from it, no signal, no communication, just silence. Ships that passed nearby avoided it, fearing what might happen if they came too close. On the council's main world, rumors grew like fire. Children whispered that the humans were watching from the shadows, waiting for the council to fall before striking. Soldiers muttered that their commanders could never stand against human warcraft. Even merchants feared them, whispering that one human decision could collapse their fortunes overnight. The silence was no longer just absence. It was everywhere. It was alive. The Chancellor stood before the assembly once more, his voice thin, his authority gone. If we do not act now, he said, our entire civilization will collapse. Already the smaller races lose faith in us. Already the galaxy trembles. We must humble ourselves before the humans, before it is too late. No one argued. Not because they agreed, but because deep down, they knew he was right. In the shadows of the chamber, the Sarathi ambassador whispered to himself, his voice trembling, "This is what they meant. Humanity does not need war. Humanity does not need words. Humanity only needed to walk away, and the galaxy destroys itself." The plea for clemency, the council chamber no longer looked like the proud heart of the galaxy. Its great banners hung limp, its delegates sat in weary silence, and the chancellor's once proud voice trembled whenever he spoke. Reports of collapse poured in faster than they could be read. Starving colonies, dying hospitals, fleets destroyed by raiders. The galaxy was breaking apart, and all of it had begun the day humanity chose to walk away. No war had been declared. No threats had been spoken. Yet the galaxy had never suffered so much so quickly. Delegates who once mocked humanity now whispered prayers to their return. Those who had demanded their punishment now begged for their forgiveness. The great powers who thought themselves rulers of the stars now looked like frightened children. The chancellor stood at the center, his staff shaking in his hands. His mandibles clicked nervously as he spoke. "We cannot wait any longer. If humanity remains silent, our worlds will fall into ruin. We must send them a plea, one of clemency, one that admits our fault." The chamber, once so loud with pride, gave no objection. For the first time the council agreed on something. Without humanity, there was no future. A message was crafted. The best translators polished every word, the most skilled writers shaped every phrase. It was not written in the voice of authority, but in the voice of surrender. It admitted the council's arrogance, it begged for forgiveness, and it asked, no, pleaded for humanity's return. When the message was finished, it was transmitted across the stars. Every human channel received it. Every human embassy, every human ship, every human world. And then the council waited. Hours passed. No reply came. Days turned into weeks. Still silence. The chamber grew restless. Delegates demanded answers. Did they receive it? Did they read it? Are they even listening? But the truth was simple and cruel. Humanity was listening. They just chose not to answer. On the outer rim, ships reported strange sightings, human dreadnoughts drifting at the edge of systems, massive and cold. They never fired. They never spoke. They only watched. Entire fleets turned away rather than approach. Them. Silence followed them wherever they went, and that silence terrified more than any warship could. Inside the chamber, despair deepened. Some whispered that perhaps humanity would never return, that their silence was eternal. Others whispered worse, that one day the silence would break, and when it did, it would not be with words. The Sarathi ambassador, who had warned them from the beginning, rose once more. His voice was heavy, his scales dull with age. You all thought humanity needed us. You thought they would beg to remain in our council. But look at us now. They are silent, and we are broken. They do not need us. We need them. And if they never speak again, we will wither without them. The chancellor tried to stand tall, but his body shook with fear. Then what must we do? We have already begged. We have already admitted fault. What more can we give? The Sarathi's eyes darkened. Everything, our pride, our authority, our power. Humanity does not demand with words, they demand with absence. If we wish to survive, we must give them everything they once deserved but were denied. But before the chancellor could answer, a sudden silence fell over the chamber. Not the silence of confusion or debate, but a deeper silence. A signal had arrived. On the great hollow screen, an image flickered to life. A human figure, standing in shadow. The face was unreadable, cold, and still. For a moment, hope filled the chamber. Perhaps they would finally speak. Perhaps the silence would break, but no words came. The human only stared at them, eyes calm and merciless, as if weighing their worth. Then, slowly, the figure turned away. The transmission ended. The chamber erupted into panic. Some cried out. In despair, others cursed, some wept. The council's plea had been heard, but not answered. The chancellor sank into his chair, his staff clattering to the floor. His voice was nothing more than a whisper. They do not forgive us. They simply do not need us. And across the galaxy, as human ships drifted silently in the void, every world understood the same truth. When humanity speaks, they change the course of history. But when humanity walks away without a word, civilizations crumble. The silence was louder than war, and the galaxy trembled forever beneath it.